Hello, good afternoon. The new Conservative Party chairman, Brandon Lewis, has told the BBC the government's doing everything it can to ensure the serial sex offender John Worboys stays in jail. The former black cab driver was jailed in 2009 for drugging and sexually assaulting 12 women, but police believe he may have committed more than 100 attacks. Well, the government is considering a judicial review into the parole board's decision to release him. Here's our Home Affairs correspondent, Danny Shaw.
He's known as the Black Cab Rapist. John Worboys is believed to have drugged and sexually assaulted more than 100 women. Yet the parole board has decided that after 10 years in custody, it's safe for him to be released, and he's due out by the end of the month. The government wants to stop that happening and is looking at the possibility of legal action.
Anybody out there will appreciate just how awful this must be for victims to see what is happening, to think about somebody like that being out on the streets. I think it's absolutely right. The Secretary of State for Justice will be doing everything he can to make sure this man stays behind bars.
The Justice Secretary is David Gauke. He's been in the post less than a week. He's asked lawyers to look at whether it's plausible to contest the decision in the courts and if there's a good chance of success. Opposition MPs welcome the move.
I think that the public are completely bewildered that Worboys is being released as early as he is. He is a serious criminal and a threat to women, and I don't think that his victims, nor frankly the majority of women, are going to be convinced that he doesn't continue to be a threat to us.
But it would be highly unusual for the government to launch a legal challenge against a decision made by an organisation they're responsible for, and if they do judicial review proceedings against the parole board, there's no guarantee of success.
We do know that the bar for judicial review claims is set very high. You can't simply take a case to court because you don't like the outcome. It has to be unlawful for some reason or another. So we'll wait and see.
In the meantime, victims of John Worboys are being consulted on what conditions he'll have to comply with when he is let out. Some are concerned that the serial sex offender will try to track them down.
Well, Danny joins me now. Danny, where does this case go from here?
I think events are going to move very quickly, Ben, because the clock is ticking. It's going to be 2 weeks, really, before Worboys is due to be let out. So if the government wants to stop that happening, it's going to have to get its advice quickly from the lawyers that it's consulting and make a decision about whether to bring a legal challenge. So I expect them to make a decision within the next few days. In the meantime, lawyers for some of the victims concerned have also been considering judicial review proceedings. So there are two possible tracks. One could come from the government, one could come from lawyers for the victims. Of course, it's not as simple just to bring a legal challenge and for the court to accept it. And it's not enough to say we simply don't like this decision. Basically, the court would have to decide, in order to stop this happening, that the release was completely irrational or there was something wrong with the process by which the decision was arrived at. That is a high bar, as lawyers have said, so there's absolutely no guarantee that it will succeed. But in the meantime, there's a possibility the court might decide to stop Worboys being released while they make a decision on whether to allow the judicial review.
Danny, thank you very much indeed. Danny Shaw there. There are talks today aimed at saving the construction company Carillion. The firm, which is a key government contractor, has huge debts and a big pension deficit. The government says ministers are keeping a very close eye on the situation. Let's go to our business correspondent Joe Lynham, who joins us from the Cabinet Office in central London. Joe, what is the latest on these talks?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ben. And I think the Cabinet Office, with all its scaffolding, is a perfect metaphor, don't you think, for the health of the Carillion finances. Yes, people have been coming into and out of the building all morning. Very key people. We saw the Permanent Secretary going in. Why are we outside the Cabinet Office? Because Carillion have so much work and so many contracts throughout all arms of government that it all needs to be coordinated by the Cabinet Office. And why are we here? Is because they need to make sure that everything will work fine if, and it's a big if, Carillion collapses. So schools need to continue to be maintained, as do prisons and hospitals, etc., etc. So what they're working on is a contingency plan in the eventuality that there are issues that cannot be resolved at Carillion. Separately, I understand that there may be meetings between the company and the banks today in the hope to find a solution. If they can't find one, then the company could file for administration as early as tomorrow morning.
Joe, thank you very much indeed. Joe Linen. UKIP has suspended the girlfriend of its party leader Henry Bolton after she apparently made racist remarks about Prince Harry's fiancée Meghan Markle. The Mail on Sunday has published text messages sent by Joe Marnie that include derogatory comments about Meghan Markle and people from ethnic minorities. She has apologised but said the messages had been taken out of context. Police in East Yorkshire say a man who died after an attack at his home near Driffield may have been shot with a crossbow. Officers say they want to speak to 55-year-old Anthony Lawrence in connection with the incident. Shane Gilmer was attacked on Friday night at his home in the village of Southburn. A woman was also injured. More than 150 passengers and crew had a lucky escape when their plane skidded off a runway in Turkey and plunged down a steep slope. The nose of the Boeing 737 came to rest just a few metres from the Black Sea, as Andy Moore reports.
The accident happened in the darkness last night. It was only in the daylight this morning that it became apparent how close to disaster the plane had come. The Pegasus flight from Ankara skidded off the runway in wet conditions and down a steep slope, with its nose coming to rest just metres from the sea. One of the engines detached from the wing and ended up in the water. These pictures from on board the plane show the understandable panic and confusion. Passengers had to clamber up an incline towards the rear of the plane to get out. 162 passengers and 6 crew were on board. Some people were taken to hospital as a precaution, but nobody was injured. The airport was closed for a while last night, but has reopened this morning. Theories about the cause of the incident include a bird strike or ice on the runway, but the governor of Trabzon said it was still under investigation. This was a lucky escape for passengers on this plane. Last year was the safest ever for commercial aviation. There were around 4 billion journeys made last year and not a single passenger jet crashed. Andy Moore, BBC News.
The magazine publisher Condé Nast has said it has suspended working with 2 of the world's leading fashion photographers after they were accused of sexually exploiting male models. Lawyers for Mario Testino, who's known for photographing the royal family, said that the accusations in the New York Times newspaper had not come from reliable sources. Bruce Weber has also denied the allegations against him. The Hollywood actor Mark Wahlberg has given the money that he earned for reshooting scenes in the film All the Money in the World to a fund that supports people who've experienced sexual harassment. The scenes had to be filmed again after Kevin Spacey was dropped from the project after sexual assault allegations. It then emerged that Mr. Wahlberg was paid more than £1 million for the reshoot, while his co-star Michelle Williams only got £60 a day in expenses. England have won the first one-day international against Australia. It follows a disappointing Ashes series, which they lost 4-0. They took the match in Melbourne by 5 wickets. Jason Roy hit a record 180, the highest by an England player in a one-day game. Well, this was the first in a 5-match series, as Adam Wilde reports.
For English cricket, a time to rebuild, recover, restore some respect and some reputations. A fresh start then, and it soon became a rather good one for England. Early wickets fall, but this is Australia, and after dominating all winter, they weren't about to go easy on their old rivals. A century from Aaron Finch helping them towards a total of 304. In days gone by, such targets were imposing. Now, for this England one-day side, it was merely inviting. Jason Roy taking up the challenge with the kind of relish missed by England in recent months. Brilliantly belligerent, he bludgeoned his way to a magnificent 100. Taking the game away from Australia, the highest ever one-day innings by an Englishman. 180 for Roy, and the damage was done. Joe Root for once the support act, 91 from him. The win, when it came, comfortable, and for English cricket could scarcely have been more welcome. Adam Wilde, BBC News.
And that's it from me. You can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. The next news on BBC One is at 6:05. Goodbye for now.